everybody, and thank you so much for tuning in. You are watching The Vuyo Show. We are coming to you from New York City with yet another episode of incredible individuals and incredible guests. We're going to help us get some insight on a particular industry. And today's guest has had his pulse on the world of fashion in Texas. And he's now just come to New York City, where the glitz and the glam and the fashion life is where the epitome of fashion is around the world. So I'm going to be discussing fashion and so much more today on the show with the one and only, ladies and gents, fashion designer extraordinaire.
I don't know about that.
The one and only Nate.
Hello, how you doing?
How
Thank you for having me. I'm very, very excited. Nervous, but excited.
Ah, come on.
Yes, very
Get rid of the
looking forward to
nerves.
it. Yeah, right. We're good. We're good. We're good.
As I said, fashion extraordinaire. Does that sink? Is that something that's overwhelming for you to hear, or it's comforting for you to hear?
I'd say a little bit of both.
Okay.
Because fashion is a very tough industry, I'd say. So it's definitely. I'm a person that doesn't really. I have very high expectations of myself, I'd say. So I don't put myself as extraordinary yet, but it's because of my expectations of myself. But I'm definitely humbled by you saying that. It means a lot to hear. Definitely boosts my confidence a little bit. So that's for sure. Yeah.
I think I use that word very strategically because there's something about just like saying things and putting them out there and manifesting. Like I would wake up and be like, oh, I'm a superstar, and it just does something to your confidence, 100%. As you said. And I like to encourage my guests with those types of words just to help them boost that confidence and help you get comfortable as well.
Right, no, definitely that. Yes, 100%. I'm still got the jitters, but we'll work into it as we keep going.
Let's do it. So, Nate, I didn't say your surname because I'm like, I don't want to butcher it. I'm gonna let you help me say it.
Okay, cool.
What is it?
Pennington.
Pennington. Oh, that's not hard.
It's pretty simple. Yeah, it's pretty much how you spell it. Yeah, nothing crazy pronunciation-wise. Yeah.
Nate Pennington.
Yeah.
It does sound like a design. Some designers' names.
Yes.
You're like, I can see that
with the brand.
With the brand
yes.
and the billboard.
Yes.
Nate Pennington.
I actually have heard that, and my full name is kind of a mouthful. Nathaniel Paul Pennington. So I don't really like the Paul part. I kind of keep that one out, but Nathaniel Pennington. I've definitely heard that a couple times where people think that's the brand name. So it's kind of a fitting name.
Interesting. Yeah. Nathaniel Pennington. Just ringing it in my head. And
got a nice tone to it.
It has a nice tone to it.
Cool.
So maybe like an NP initial.
NP, yep. Yes, definitely.
You see how we out here navigating and workshopping some brand ideas.
No, definitely, because trust me, believe it or not, that's probably one of the hardest parts.
Yes.
Trying to find a brand name, a logo. You don't want to focus too much on it because at the end of the day, it's like you don't want to plan all the time. You want action,
Yeah.
But that's a big part of the brand of the industry. It's like you got to have a memorable name, a memorable logo, something that people can connect your brand with, especially like an aesthetic that you produce.
Yeah.
So it's a very important part of it. It really is.
Yeah. Oh man. Why fashion? And I think that's a big question to ask in the beginning of a conversation.
It is.
Like I am so intrigued. I met you for the first time a couple of weeks ago at a music show, and
yes.
The way in which you spoke about fashion, I was like, ooh, okay, this person knows that they want to get into this. They're very sure about it. They're very confident about and comfortable about them being a fashion designer.
Definitely.
Meaning that there's definitely resonance there. So, but I was asking myself when I was sitting on that table that day, like, but why does he want to do fashion? So why fashion is the question?
That's such a broad question. I have to dive pretty far back for that because, a lot of people when they follow their dreams, it's like they knew what they wanted to be at a very young age. That wasn't the case for me in fashion. I actually fell in love with it pretty later in my life.
Interesting.
So my first dream, I guess you'd want to call it, is I actually want to be a professional skateboarder. And then after that, I wanted to be a professional baseball player. And so I took baseball very seriously. Like that was my route. Like growing up, I was like 99% sure that's what was going to be my path. So, I mean, year round, since I could hold a bat, I played select, just multiple different leagues, multiple different teams during the same year. I mean, it was my life. I dedicated all my time to it, really all my thoughts to it. But it got to the point where I was in high school. I was going through a lot personally. And I was getting a little nervous because it was to that point where like, okay, you're getting a little older. It's like things are kind of actually starting to develop and like your life's kind of becoming, what you dreamed of when you were a kid. And it got to the point where like I kind of hesitated on that dream of being a baseball player. I kind of got a little burnout towards the end. And I really had to sit back and think like, is this really what I want to do long term? And if it doesn't work out, like I don't have a plan B. So that was very tough on me. And I didn't really handle it that well at the time. So my senior year came, and I actually quit baseball. No plan.
And still in high school.
Yes, and still in high school. My last year of high school, and like I had all these goals, building up to that point to like go to college and play, and then kind of just take it from there. But I just point blank quit, and I didn't have a plan B. I didn't know what I was doing, but I know God always has a plan, and I just needed to kind of lean on my gut and what I was feeling at the time, and that was to move on. So after high school, I didn't have any plans. I mean, I wanted to go to school. I knew that. Didn't know where I wanted to go. So my parents actually moved from Allen. So I went to Allen High School. It's North Dallas area. And they moved to Galveston, which is by Houston, down on the Gulf Coast, to live closer to my mom's parents.
Okay.
And I didn't want to go. I was like, I don't want to live down there. I'm still trying to figure things out. So I actually ended up moving in with my best friend, Mark. Shout out, Mark. He'll watch this later. So I lived with him for about a year and a half. We kind of I think he was kind of in the same boat as me, kind of trying to figure out what he wanted to do as well. And so after about a few months out of high school, I was like, all right, I'm just going to go to community college, see what I can make happen, see if I can get a spark of something of knowing what I want to do. I went for 2 weeks and stopped showing up. Just immediately off the bat, I was like, I just don't. This doesn't
What were
feel
you
right.
studying? What were you?
I was just doing my basic core classes.
Okay.
So, because I still didn't really know what I was gonna major in, so I was just taking like my basic English classes and math classes that I had to do, and I was never really good in school generally. High school, I struggled academically because I just. You hear a lot of creatives say this. Yeah. It's just like they just didn't. It was boring to them, and I mean, I'm on the same page. It didn't resonate with me. Math specifically almost held me from graduating, so I struggled with that. But as time went on, I struggled a lot with. After I stopped showing up to classes, I just had friends. I've just kind of got into the wrong path of things. Got into some drugs a little bit. Kind of felt hopeless, honestly, and completely lost. And I had a conversation with my parents. They were really worried about me, and this is about like 6 months I've been living with my friend, and I realized I was like, I don't know, like, what am I doing? Like I'm a very goal-driven person. I'm a very serious person when it comes to my future, and I want to make my family proud. I want to make myself proud. So I really had to take a step back and kind of think of what am I doing, And my mom always told me stories that my mom was a daughter of 4. She had 3 siblings, so all 4 daughters in the family. And my nana used to make them clothes, and I thought that was so cool. So I think it was my nana actually bought me a sewing machine, and so I started kind of dabbling in it. And then I immediately fell in love. What? And I look back, I'm like, well, I don't know why I didn't start this sooner, because I've always been interested in style, and I always dressed everybody, and kind of tried to have a personal. I was going back to school shopping for clothes was my favorite part. I loved it, and I loved wearing different things. And I remember when I was in 3rd grade, I was watching the X Games, which is like I said, I wanted to be a skateboarder. Yeah. And I remember getting my mom to help me cut up some of my clothes to make it look like what they had on, and like 'cause they had like a nice like specific street style to it. And I was very inspired, and I was like cutting up my own clothes. I remember I had this nice like Levi denim jacket, and my mom was like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And I was just like, "I want to cut it up." And I was cutting up the sleeves, and I wore it to school the next day, and I was so proud of myself. I was so excited. And so I was remembering, just looking back at those memories, and I'm like, this is the path for me. And even though I found it a little bit later, I didn't really figure it out like fully. Like I was still dabbling with it in my buddy's garage for months, and then I was like, I got to make a move. I'm gonna try to find a school. I don't have that much money, but this is definitely what I want to pursue. So
that is such a beautiful story. Oh
Thank
my
you.
God! Like,
sorry, I
didn't
blabbered
know
on a little bit.
that. I didn't. I
Yeah.
mean, that is such a beautiful way in just context-wise to help us understand the journey, because a lot of, and I think I asked that question specifically because I wanted to understand where your heart and why this mattered to you so much. And hearing the story now and understanding that there was a journey ahead before it, right?
Definitely.
You didn't just stumble into it.
No, yeah, it was a long path of just not knowing it, like literally just feeling completely hopeless. And I was actually I have the most. I'm fortunate enough to have the most supportive and amazing family, especially my mom and dad. They've sacrificed, more than you can even imagine for me, and to help me pursue my dreams. And they've always supported me no matter what I wanted to do, even when it was quitting baseball and getting into fashion. And my dad actually found the school I ended up going to it was like an Instagram ad, and it was a school, Wade College, in downtown Dallas, which I moved from my buddy's house to downtown Dallas to go to that school. And it just it happened so fast. I was like, okay, this is actually happening. I'm like, I'm actually building some momentum, and things are going in the right direction.
And what would you say initially in the beginning? Because I kind of want to go in these different phases now to come into where you are right now. Yeah. What about sports did you find fascinating? Because that can help us understand your personality and who you are a little bit better as well.
Yes.
And why baseball out of all the sports?
Baseball. So, I played really every sport. I played football, basketball. My dad was a golfer, so I played golf. But baseball, I just felt a natural ability to play it, and I don't know. If specifically baseball, I just fell in love with. Just being in the dugout with your teammates. It was just a specific team atmosphere where I learned a lot about teamwork. And I've always been a very, very competitive person. Okay. And I think that reigns true to what I do now. Fashion is very competitive. So I feel like that kind of falls in line with both things. Yeah. But yeah, just the fierceness and the competitive nature of baseball and sports is kind of why I fell in love with it. And just the physical activity. I loved being active. I love moving. I was a catcher, so I was the one behind the plate. I was part of every play, and I think that was kind of like the captain of the infield. I kind of called pitches and everything. So it was just kind of what I fell in love with at an early age.
So you said you played the catcher?
Catcher, yeah.
Okay.
So do you know your baseball terminology a little bit?
I don't.
No? Oh, that's okay. It's okay.
But I'm sure people at home who might watch
some people
might
know. Yeah.
So is that the person behind the person batting?
Yes.
Okay. Because I know cricket a little bit better.
Cricket, okay,
So the person who's batting, there's always someone behind them.
Yeah, catching it from the guy throwing it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the guy throwing it is throwing it to me. I'm the catcher behind home plate. And the guy that's hitting is right in front of me. So yeah, you got it right. It's like the same thing with cricket. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
so you got it, yeah.
How were you able to pick that as a position that you play? Is that something that they pick for you, or you decide for yourself as a player?
So it kind of depends. At an early age, you kind of try to figure out where you want to play. So I played all over. I played shortstop, third base, first base. And I was originally shortstop for a long time. And then I got a little bit older, and I honestly don't remember what even got me to be a catcher. I just was I wanted to try it. Because I was always interested in trying new things. And, and after my first time playing it, I was like, okay, yeah, this is the position I'm locked in with, and I love it. I want to play it. So
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
That makes
definitely.
sense. I thought they're like, you look like a catcher, go catch.
No, yeah, it was basically just kind of what you felt like you fit best in.
Okay. And sports being such a competitive thing, and losing games, winning games.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
as a kid, I think it's a different experience when you're a little bit grown and you are comfortable and you're at least able to take rejection or losing or whatever the case may be. But as a kid, and I always worry for kids when I see them losing a match, and I'm like, oh, a little hard. So how did you go about making sure that you still keep going as a little kid, even though you lose some games or you win some games, or were you just like always the winning team?
I usually like to stay humble, but I was usually always on the winning team. I was always I was always on a good team. I hated losing. I hated because like when you're young, you have less experiences in life than someone grown. So when you lose, it's like, oh my God, it's the end of the world. Like what am I gonna do? Like, and I hated that feeling. I remember T-ball. I was literally every time a ball would go anywhere, I'd be running everywhere in the field, out of my position, because people picking daisies in the outfield is what they call it. I had a competitive fire at a very young age where like a lot of kids at that age didn't really care. Yeah. But I was like, I'm here to win. Like that's the only reason we're doing this. Winning's fun to me. Yeah. So, yeah.
I get it. I love that. Like own it.
100%. Yeah. No, it's very true. Yeah, it's very true.
Okay, and you mentioned things like team, like playing in a team and understanding team dynamics, and understanding what it feels like to be part of something bigger than you. Bigger than you. What would you say are some of the other valuable things that you learned from sports as a medium of just expression and play? So
it goes back to like winning and losing. It's like you do have to handle the losses. Life isn't about just winning. You don't win often in life. It's sometimes, like in baseball, it's an analogy I like to use that my dad always told me. It's like there's a batting average, and so a batter goes up to bat 10 times, and he gets 3 hits. You're batting 300%, or your batting average is 300. That's like really good in baseball. You get 3 hits out of 10 at bats. You're good. So it's a game of failure. And I feel like me being so in baseball, I feel like that's one reason why I fell in love with it over other sports, is like it helped me kind of grow at a younger age. And like failure is part of the journey. It's really about what you do with it and how you learn from it. You got to get knocked down, but you're going to have to get up. Yeah. If you get knocked down, you can stay down, but nothing good's going to come from it. Yeah. You got to get up and you got to keep going. And not even baseball, just in life in general, especially recently, like, as you get older, you experience new things you've never experienced before. It's scary, but you have to take that leap of faith. Like on this podcast, like I was talking to you about before the show, it's like this is my first time being in anything like this. And, it was a leap of faith for me. I was definitely hesitant about it. I was definitely fearful, but I'm here now, and I'm gonna look back at this after and be proud that I did it. Yeah. And it's a step forward in the right direction. So. And
there'll be many more to come.
Yes.
Will be like, Nate, we want you on our show.
Yes, exactly. That's the goal.
That's beautiful, and I think that's why I love things like sport, and I always kind of advocate for young people to just embark on those types of experiences and embrace them and be part of sport and be part of culture and adventures and things of that nature. So I'm very glad to hear that you took that from it.
Yes.
You said that your family was very supportive, and I love hearing that. I think it's very heartwarming to know that someone was supported within their journey, because it's never easy, but having that form of support. What was your family structure like? You said you had mom and dad.
Yes, so I'm an only child, actually. Yes, and I definitely think that has its pros and cons. I was definitely spoiled growing up, but we've also been through a lot together, me and my mom and dad, and also I think being an only child, like a lot of people have a stigma, like, oh, you're an only child, you're spoiled, you got everything you got, and you're like, yeah, I was spoiled, but I had a special relationship, and I still have a very special relationship with my parents, where they understand me and I understand them on a very personal level, and they're always there if I need to talk to them about anything. Like, I can tell them anything in the world, and they will never judge. They will just guide me and give me advice and be there for me, just to listen. And I feel like, that's possibly a rare thing these days, because I know a lot of people that are scared to, open up to their parents, and I'm very fortunate that I can open up to my parents, and they can give me the guidance that I need and the structure I need.
And so then that could have, I mean, I can only imagine, right? I was the only child for the longest time. Before I had younger siblings, and the journey of being on your own, but not on your own, but also being in different generations with your parents and having to still navigate what relationships are outside of yourself, because you're the only child. So you have to, when you have siblings, you're like, oh, you understand how to treat other people, your age mates. What was that for you? It was the norm, but did you ever think about what life would have been if you had siblings, or you had no?
Yes and no. I did have two. I have older cousins. That I was very close with. I mean, I still am, but they have their own families, and I don't talk to them as much, which is normal. But I was very close to them growing up. And at one point, I lived next to two of my cousins, Clark and Connor. They were my neighbors for a couple years, and so that was almost like what I was missing from a brother or sister. They were kind of there at those times when I was growing up, in like an important time in my life where like I kind of almost did have siblings at that time, so that was very helpful when they were being there.
But also, what I also found about being the only child is the independence that comes with it.
Yes.
Because you are able to still stand strong and still go for what you want and still be independent in your thinking. So to some degree, there's an advantage to that.
I'd say so. Yeah. And there's also an advantage to having all the attention of your parents, because I mean, they will they'll have your full support of them. So that is definitely a help.
Only child gang.
Right. I feel like it's such a rare thing these days. I feel like everybody's got so many brothers and sisters.
I know.
So I definitely felt out on the loop on that. Like growing up, I feel like everybody always had brothers and sisters. I'm like, no, it's just chilling by myself. So
What happens? I always make fun of my mom, because, as I said, I was the only child for a very long time. I was like, now I have to adopt you as my sibling. Now you don't have a choice.
Exactly.
You are my best friend and my sister. And sometimes she'll be like, okay, let's stop being friends now. I'm your mom.
I get that. That's hilarious. It's funny.
And you mentioned skateboarding as well, which I'm finding I'm like, wait, how and when was that? When did that happen?
I was doing that while I was playing baseball, just at a young age. I was pretty strong on those goals and aspirations until I think it was 7th grade year. So I stopped pretty young, but it's because I have a weird, like, even though I was an only child, I did have a lot of experiences like socially. So I grew up I was born in Florida, lived there for 2 years, so I don't really know much of that. But then I moved to North Texas, so North Dallas, which is Allen. It's like a big suburb. We were known for our football and stuff like that. But I would always go to the skate park there, and I fell in love with skateboarding through the X Games. It's on TV. And so I was always like looking up to those people, those skateboarders, and I'd always go to the skate park. I was there every day from like after school to close, which was like 11 o'clock, 10:30, 11. And but that dream slowly drifted away because in 7th grade I moved from Allen to Van, Texas. So that's East Texas. And so I went from a town that had thousands and thousands and thousands of people to a town that had about 1,000. And it was out in the country. So there was nowhere to skateboard because you need concrete, and there was dirt, and there wasn't no concrete. So that dream kind of went downhill after that. But moving to Van, getting off topic a little bit, moving to Van was actually looking back at it now, is probably one of the most important experiences I think I've had in my life.
Yeah.
Because I got to go from a big city to a small town, and the difference of life there and the difference of community there. I got to see kind of both aspects growing up. And I lived in Van until sophomore year, and then I actually moved back to Allen. So I'm still friends with everybody from there that time.
Yeah.
So that was a very important moment of my life, I feel like, moving out there. Yeah.
Now, I'm sure people watching are like, we need to find out where this Van and Allen,
Yeah,
these locations
Allen,
are.
you'll be able to find a little. Actually, Allen, for the people listening, quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals in the NFL, Kyler Murray, he went to Allen.
Okay.
So he was like 2 years ahead of me, but he's like a big name from Allen. And Van, Texas, good luck Googling that one, because you probably won't know what that is. So yeah.
That's what you're helping us kind of, paint this picture of this
Yeah,
world.
dive into my world a little bit.
And get an understanding of what that looks like, because
Definitely.
it's helpful for us to be able to, when we start seeing that NP logo on our
Yeah.
fashion brand,
Yeah.
we're like, oh, remember he's from Allen
Yeah.
and Van.
Yeah.
He used to play baseball, and look at him now.
Exactly.
Okay?
I want to inspire people, and especially, it doesn't matter where you come from. It really doesn't, especially in today's era, like with social media and everything.
Yeah.
There's so much outreach. Like, if you really want something, you can get it. You just really strive and use the tools that you're provided, really, and it's a little more accessible than it used to be. So,
yeah. What is your first memory of New York City? Like, what's the first thing you remember hearing, seeing, or knowing, or being told about New York City? Was it Alicia Keys'
Nah.
song?
No, actually, this is actually a funny story. So I was, I think 13, around there, 13. And my grandparents on my dad's side, they wanted to take me on a trip. They're like, you turned 13, like, we want to take you somewhere. And they're like, you want to go to Disney World, Disneyland? Like, I'm 13 years old, they're thinking I want to do something like that. And I dropped them with the bomb. I was like, let's, I want to go to New York City.
Nice.
And I'm sure, looking back now, I was 13, probably didn't realize it, but everybody's probably like, oh my gosh, what is he talking about? I just said, you want to go to Disney World and you want to go to New York City. Because when I was little, I always wanted to live in New York.
Wow.
Because I've always been fascinated with movies too, and like TV shows. I'm a big film nerd and all that. So I'd always see New York as just this epicenter and this just metropolis of, glitz and glamour, like you said earlier. And so I've always been fascinated by it. And when I was 13, I was like, okay, this is my chance to kind of see what it's like, kind of get a little dive in. So I'm like, yes, New York. They're like, are you sure? I was like, yes, this is what I want to do. So we took a trip out there, and I was just overwhelmed. I was like, this is crazy. This is insane. And so that kind of like solidified that, like, that's because, like, but at that time I didn't even want to do fashion. I didn't even I wasn't even in fashion.
I guess still in baseball.
Still in baseball, yeah. But I mean, it's funny how life works, because like I wanted to be in New York. Fashion's the epicenter in New York and America. It's just like it seemed like it was just kind of destiny for me to kind of follow that path. Yeah. And the fact that I'm living here now, because when I was 13, that was the only time I've gone since. In 2022, I came and visited my girlfriend who was staying here for a couple months because she's a dancer. Shout out, Sky, love you. So she was kind of pursuing things. She still is. She's here with me now. She was pursuing things a little bit earlier than I was, and I came and visited her. And that was only my second time ever being here. And then she came back to Dallas, and we've always talked about when we were together. I was like, we're going to move to New York. Like, I got to graduate, because she graduated a little bit before me, and she was waiting on me. I'm sorry that took so long. It was a delay. But we told each other, like, we're going to make the move to New York. We're going to live out our dreams. And the fact of like us actually being here, and like I wake up every day and I'm just like so blessed and so thankful. Like, even though the hardships and the trials and, everything happens for a reason, but just the journey that we're going on together, especially, that is like very special to me. And it's something I'll never forget. And
I want us to really talk about that in this conversation as well. I wanna kind of delve into that, because a lot of people have that desire, right? Mm-hmm. And as someone who has taken that step, it would be just very interesting to kind of see and hear how it's kind of gone and how it's been. I want to just quickly just go back.
Let's go back a little bit. Yeah,
step back.
Rewind it.
You mentioned that you were fascinated by New York by like watching certain movies or TV
Yes,
shows.
yes,
Do you
yes.
remember anyone specific that was very fascinating for you as a kid that you watched?
So my parents watched Seinfeld a lot growing up,
Seinfeld.
and so that was always like a big kind of inspiration. And Seinfeld specifically, but you know, Spider-Man, you'd always
Yeah.
see like him swinging through New York City. I'm like, oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah.
The Sopranos, really all kinds of
Friends was here as
stuff.
well, right?
Friends was here
Friends.
as well. I mean, it's funny because me and my girlfriend were talking the other day. We were at the movie theater and we're seeing all these previews of these new movies coming out. It's like it makes you realize how many movies are actually filmed and set in New York City. I mean, it's
Yeah.
crazy how much actually are. It's just because there's so many opportunities,
Yeah.
different climates, different kind of settings that you can do it here, and it's just kind of fascinating.
How now, when you watch movies today
Yeah.
and they sit in New York and you're like, oh, I know that street.
No.
Oh, that's around the corner.
So true. It is the weirdest thing because it's like when you live in a place for a certain amount of time, you're like you start becoming accustomed to it. And it's like
Yeah.
your area, so like you know it from left, right, back and forward. And I mean, growing up watching stuff, like I had no idea where any of this
Yes.
was. I mean, I knew like stuff that was like the Statue of Liberty, you know, the Empire State Building, you know, the tourist spots everybody knows. But being here and like rewatching stuff, I'm like, oh my God, like I walked by that the other day. Like it's crazy because like now that I've been here for a while, a couple months, I'm becoming really accustomed to like where things are, especially the Upper West Side. That's kind of like
Yeah.
where I mostly am at. And I love the area, and it's so neat to see like things that you recognize from something I saw when I was a kid, and I'm like, that's so cool to me.
Yeah. That's just the life just when you think of it in that
Yeah.
sense, you're like in hindsight, wow. Someone took me to the spot where they recorded the Friends opening in the middle of Central Park.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God,
It's
I remember
crazy,
this
yeah.
in the show.
It's like Seinfeld because like they have the little diner they go to all the time.
Yeah.
I walk by, it's right on the corner all the time over there. I'm like, that's so crazy. Like I still haven't gone in there and eaten, but I really want to. So
it
that's
still
like,
feels like it's a movie.
it does. It does. It feels like I'm in the movie, in the show.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, but that's what it takes to kind of pursue, you know, just going for your goals. And
Definitely.
and what did you say you learned in college in the fashion school that you went to? What are some of the fundamental things that you'd say you can remember having learned as before we kind of come into you being in New York today?
Yeah, so going into school for fashion, I had no idea what I was doing. I was terrified. I couldn't sketch anything. I was just at home sewing old stuff together, taking stuff apart, sewing, like, you know, just upcycling,
Yeah.
you know, taking thrifted stuff, sewing stuff on it together. So I was like, I knew the fundamentals of like actually sewing the stuff, but I didn't know terminology. I didn't know anything. So going to school, it was a very small school in downtown Dallas, but I loved that because, you know, you go to these big colleges and all that, you don't have that private one-on-one time with professors or like
Yeah.
that instruction that like they're right there when you need them. And I was very fortunate to have amazing professors that helped me in and outside of school with advice, just life stuff. And whenever I needed them for personal projects, they were always there. But I learned, I mean, I was there for a full 4 years. I got my bachelor's. I learned pattern making, draping. My sketching drastically improved. If I showed you a sketch from like when I started to like where I was at the end, it was like two completely different people.
Yeah.
So just terminology, textiles, because textiles is such an important part of fashion. It's like people don't realize, but like the fabrics are the core fundamentals of the structure and of how everything's made and put together, you know? So you got to make sure you're using the right techniques for certain fabrics. You know, silk is harder to work with than cotton. It shifts when you sew, so you got to really make sure you know what you're kind of doing, because if you go into it in blind, you know, product's not really going to be probably what you imagine in your head. So a lot of different pattern making and draping, I'd say specifically, were the two core things that every fashion designer needs to learn. Specifically pattern making, because that's how you draft garments from, you know, the ideas you want to
Yeah.
kind of put together. It comes from pattern making, and it's a time-consuming process, a lot of numbers and exact measurements. But with practice, I mean, you can become really good at it, and it's a very sought-after job, just a pattern maker in general. But I've actually, at first, when I started pattern making, I hated it. Because, back to high school, math was not my thing. Numbers were not my thing. Measurements were not my thing. But I learned to kind of adapt and fall in love with it. And I would find myself going up to the school, just putting my headphones in, and just working away for hours, just kind of doing my own thing, just sitting there and patterning out one of my designs, and seeing that come to life is the most rewarding thing. Wow. So it's pattern making, draping, two biggest things I definitely got from school.
From fashion school.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine that before going into, you had an idea of what fashion is.
Oh yeah.
Before going, or before going into fashion school. Then the day of your graduation, did your idea of what fashion is change?
100%.
Did you start, what did it mean before, and what did it mean after graduating?
So before graduating, I went in kind of just like, okay, I think I have good ideas for designs, and I'm going to make them. Yeah. Because like I said, I didn't grow up fascinated with fashion. Like I did subconsciously now that I look back, but like not that level of it. So going into it, I really didn't have any idea. I was like, I'm just going to make these clothes. I'm going to sew them together, and that's going to be that. I'm going to make something out of myself. But it's a lot more in depth than that, especially when it comes to production. Because you got to put in the calculations of how much these different processes of manufacturing production are going to cost. And then you have sample rounds. So you got to find, it depends, there's different ways to do it. You can make things all yourself, which is time consuming. You can have a team, small team, where you all sew everything together. Or you can kind of branch out and get it manufactured somewhere, but there's all different types of manufacturers that do specialize in different things, some way better than others. And you really don't know what these manufacturers are capable of until you pay to do a sample. So say I design and make a pattern and a sample of this shirt. I send it to the facility. They send me their sample. It's horrible. I got to pay for them to make another sample. And if it's horrible, I'm like, at this point, I'm like, do I need to find another manufacturer, or do I risk paying for another sample? It's just there's so much more fundamental factors that go in. And that's not even counting branding. You got to count branding, trademarks, and just reaching your audience. PR, I mean, social media. I mean, there is a list after list after list after list after list to go off of. And how much product's going to cost, how much fabric's going to cost. There's just a lot more aspects to it than I originally, signed up for. But I think after I graduated, though, I kind of had like a wake-up call. I was like, okay, of course it was going to be a lot more than I thought. But I'm glad it is, because it's a challenge. I'm a competitive person. I love a challenge. And, starting out just graduating recently and being in a new city, you don't have any, like, especially me, like right now, I don't have anybody that I know is in the city yet that's in what I do. So I'm doing everything by myself. Which isn't a bad thing, because I can learn every aspect of it. I feel like if you want to be successful, you have to learn every aspect of it truly yourself to know how things work. So when you can source things out to different companies or different people to help you, you know exactly the process behind each thing to kind of really pull things together correctly. So I think that's a very important factor that everybody needs to know going into fashion. Depending on your long-term goal, you got to know that there's multiple sides that you need to master, really, and not really master, but have a good understanding of how things work, behind the scenes.
And I'm sure that was definitely in the 4 years was engraved.
100%.
And then on that day of graduation, this day is very significant, because it's like when you're jumping the broom, when you're getting married and you have to jump the broom. It's like once you've jumped this broom, now life is completely, it's not what it was before.
There's no going back.
That day of the graduation is that jumping off the broom. So that day, what was in your mind about what was next?
I was scared, but I was excited too, because even like in high school was hard for me, like I said, and even in school, for something I loved, it was hard, because I struggle with procrastination, like every artist does.
The curse.
The curse. I mean, and when I say procrastination, I mean I got it bad. Because just a quick example, in October 2022, I was part of. It was like during my bachelor's, like my third year. We had a 60th anniversary for our school fashion competition, and it was a teamed event. So we had 4 teams of 4. I believe that's what it was, and each team got assigned a season, a certain like fall, winter, summer, and spring, and we're the winter team, and so we each had to come up with a design, but we had to come up with a cohesive theme, and so we came up with a theme, and we had like a few months to work on it until the show, and I procrastinated very badly, and one of our team members was like, okay, well, send us pictures of what you got. And I was like, it's not there yet. I was like, just trust me. Just trust me. Yeah. Give me some time. And at this time I was working as well. So it was kind of, I worked at Louis Vuitton and I was an artisan. So it was kind of draining a lot of me too, because I was sewing and then sewing all day. But we ended up getting to the show, which was at the World Trade Center, or the World Trade Mart in Dallas, which is like every few months they have trade shows, and it's I think over 1,000 showrooms in the building for all different brands and all that. And there'd be buyers that come internationally to buy for their department stores, their boutiques, their little small stores. And I worked for the building at that time the show was going on as well. So I remember my job was putting out magazines. Okay. And so I remember one day I was putting out the magazines, just like I had a cart and boxes, and I'd put the magazines out on all the stands around the whole building. Yeah. And at that time, they were building the stage because we were having the show there, and they were building the stage. I was like, well, that's funny. Like, I'm putting magazines out, and I'm going to be presenting a look there in a week, and I'm not even close to being done. So 4 days till show, I have nothing put together.
Oh, no.
Because I was making something I've never even been close to making before. I was making a full suit, but we're the winter collection, so I had to winterfy it. Yeah. So it was a full suit with puffer jacket sleeves.
Nice.
And pants had puffer on the side too. So I was totally learning as I was going. And the last 4 days, I stayed up for 4 days straight. I didn't sleep. No nap, nothing. I was coffee, energy drink. Yeah. Nonstop sewing, and I was really kind of losing my mind there at the end. But I was focused. I'm like, I'm not gonna not have this ready. Like, this has got to be done. So I finished 15 minutes until I had to leave to be at the show, and I left feeling so drained but so rewarded. Like, I was like, if I win, lose, like, I got this done, and it was something I've never made before, never even been close to even trying. I'm like so proud of myself. And we get there, we have the show, the model tries it on, fits him perfect. I'm like, thank God. And he walks the show, and they announce the winner, and we ended up fortunately winning.
The winning team
and
again.
The winning team again. The winning team again. And I like couldn't hold back the tears because like my family was able to come, my grandparents too. Yeah. Like everybody was able to see, and that was like the first time my grandparents kind of been able to see like my work. Wow. And my parents too, and it was just a very rewarding day for me, especially because I was going through a lot at the time, and getting that finished in the amount of time I did, and it coming out the way it did was very, very pleasing. Nice. And it was kind of like a full circle moment. The next day, I had to be up at the building at 6 a.m. to put out more magazines. And I'm sitting there putting out magazines, looking at the stage that they're taking apart now. And I was like, that's crazy. Like, I'm putting out magazines for this building right now, and I just won a fashion show on that stage right there. No one knows. No one here knows. I'm just putting up magazines. So that was a cool little moment that I was like, I'll definitely remember this forever.
Wow. Yeah. That's such a beautiful, it sounds like, when you're watching a movie and someone has this crunch and you're waiting at the edge of your seat, you're like, are you going to make it in this 4 days?
I felt that.
And then you're like, oh my God, come on.
Definitely felt that, yes.
It's like when you watch one of those fashion shows like Next in Fashion or Project Runway, yes. And there's a challenge that they have to do.
Yes, suspenseful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
suspenseful. Okay, and again, this is giving us context, right?
Yeah,
This is
I'm
helping
trying.
us
Yeah.
understand so much more. So then college, then you have that as top of your mind. Do you have an idea of a brand aesthetic? Have you found your voice by then? Were you sure of like, oh, this is what I want to do in the fact, this is the impact and the mark that I want to have in the fashion industry, and now I've got the key to go ahead and do that.
Yeah, so after I graduated, I felt pretty good. You know, like I said, I was scared and I was kind of like, because everybody is after you graduate, it's like, what's
Yeah.
that next step? But I was feeling confident because just the fact of me graduating a 4-year degree was a huge reward to me. Like, I did not think, like, early on, I was like, I'm not gonna be able to do this. Like, this is tough. And I really like grabbed myself up from the bootstraps and pushed through and never gave up. And just me graduating, kind of like, I told myself like subconsciously, I was like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
And whatever's next, I'm gonna take it head on. So I graduated in January and
Of 2020.
of 2024. This
Okay,
year.
so
Yeah,
this year.
yeah,
Okay,
this year,
okay,
2024. And so I was actually rooming with a buddy of mine that I met in Van, because he just graduated as well and had his career out in Dallas, and our lease didn't end until March or end of March.
Yeah.
So I kind of had to take that time from January to end of March to kind of plan, figure out what I was going to do. And my girlfriend, this is when my girlfriend came along, and she was, really supportive. And, we had the same goals in mind because she's a dancer. She wanted to kind of make her mark on her career. And I'm very fortunate of her. She's my rock. She's very hardworking, and she keeps me stay level-headed. She helps me stay level-headed. And I had a fear of moving to New York. Like I said, I wanted to. That was the goal after I graduated and after my lease was up. But she really helped me go through with it.
Yeah.
Because I believed in myself, but there was that fear.
Yes.
And she really reiterated to me. She's like, "This is what we're doing, and this is what we're supposed to do. We have each other." So we were looking at places to get right at the beginning of April because I had nowhere to go after March. I would be kind of in a situation if I didn't figure out a place to be.
Yeah.
So we were fortunate enough to get a little short-term rental for 2 months from April to end of May.
Yeah.
In New York. So right after that lease ended, my buddy got moved out and I got all my stuff moved out. We just got on a flight and moved to New York with no plan really, or nothing set in stone.
Yeah.
Just 2 goals and 2 aspirations of 2 people in love. So we just kind of took the risk, and we're like, we're only young once, and you got to take that risk. So we just made it happen.
I love that. You're only young once.
Yes.
And,
yes.
You're 25.
25. That's
yeah.
crazy to hear.
I
Because I don't feel 20. I feel younger. So it's crazy to think time goes by so fast. So.
But it is. You are only young ones, and there's only that much time for you to be able to take such risks.
Yeah.
And not even be afraid of what the
Exactly.
consequences of it is going to be, because you know what you've put in, you've done the work, you've went to school and trained yourself, and now it's like, let's just take the leap of faith.
Yeah.
But taking that leap of faith with having someone else alongside you and having and love, so it's love, career at the same time.
Yeah.
I can only imagine how fun and exciting that could be, but also
is.
maybe how challenging that could be as well.
Definitely.
What would you say the experience has been from a relational point of view, where the stress and the pressure of being in a new city, but also having to navigate love in a new city on the same breath?
So I feel like me and Sky, she's going to look back at this and laugh so hard. I feel like we complement each other so well, where I'm more of kind of like the competitive, kind of like fireball a little bit, and she's the most laid back, calm person I know. So she kind of settles me down, and then I lift her up. We're just a very good match. And of course it has been a struggle, especially in these New York apartments. They're so small. And so you can't get away from each other, It's like, I'm mad at you, I'm going to sit on the other side of the couch.
I want to look the other way.
Yeah, so we've learned that there's not much getting away. So,
Yeah.
but we've been very good. We have good communication, and we're always usually on the same page. We talk about things, and we lift each other up. We help each other. And her career path is, I mean, it's like fashion. It's you really got to hustle
Yeah.
and make it for yourself, because no one's gonna do it for you. And it's a toll on your body too. And she gets beat up and banged up, but she works her butt off every single day, and it motivates me to work my butt off every single day.
Yeah.
So I feel like we can feed off each other. Whereas if I was alone, it'd probably be a little harder to pick myself up. So that's a very big blessing. To have her.
It's a benefit.
Definitely.
I know it's definitely harder just doing it and having it on your own. There's always kind of this topic and this conversation around being single until you've reached all of your career milestones and then start thinking about dating. Like, what is your take on that? Do you think it's more beneficial to just meet your partner, fall in love, and then do life together? Like, what would you say on that?
Before I met her, I'd probably be like, they're probably right. You should do everything on your own and then kind of find your person. But God works in funny ways. He brings them when he brings them, And there was just like a moment when we met, like, it's just kind of like, okay, you're my person. And with that stigma of like doing everything on your own first, I think it personally depends on the person and the couple, because it also benefits that we kind of have the same goals. Okay. The fact that we match so well in that, it's almost like, we're a team. Or like if she was doing something completely different than I was, then maybe I could see it like kind of pulling at each other. But we both had the dream to move to New York. We both are in the arts. Yeah. We both are creative. We both wanted to make this move because you gotta, a big move like that, especially with the risk it takes, you really have to be on the same page. Yeah. Because if you're not, like, that's gonna cause tension, and it's not healthy. So personally, in my situation, I'd say it's best to go through these growing stages together, than alone, because you learn more about your relationship as well as your career and your life. And I think it's even better when you look back down the line, you're like, it's more bonding and building of your relationship that you two got to have together. Yeah. I feel like it strengthens the relationship. Yeah. Well,
that is great advice.
I try. Yeah.
If you got them, secure them and just do life with them.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so now you're here. You're in New York now.
Yes.
You're on the ground. You've put your foot in.
Yes.
You've settled in. What now? What are you thinking about right now?
Right now?
Yeah.
So I have a couple. I'm a person that kind of has. Sometimes like this guy has to reel me in a little bit, and like, because I can get too many ideas at once, and it stops me from doing any of the ideas. Yeah. Because I'll go in this direction, that direction, this direction, that direction, and I'm trying to do all of them at once. And I'm so used to that because of college. That's kind of how things are. You have multiple classes. You got to do everything at once. And I've always been kind of structured and wired that way, I feel like. But then when you get out of college, you really got to do one thing at a time and one thing well. Yeah. And it's all about action and not planning. And that's something I struggle with, but I'm really trying to grow on here. Because Dallas is completely different than New York.
In what? In terms of energy? In terms of?
Everything. Okay. So, like, I grew up in Dallas, and it's growing, and Dallas is very booming right now. But the fashion industry is not really anything close to what it is here. So like I didn't really have that to go off of in Dallas, like I was kind of just doing my own thing. And like I said, I worked for Louis Vuitton as an artisan. That was amazing. Got a lot of experience through that, but that was really the only opportunity I could get. But here there's so much, it's like an abundance. And so like when I first got here, like I've only been here 4 months. So I'm kind of just finally getting settled in a little bit, but it was very overwhelming at first. I'm like, I don't even know where to look. I don't even know where to go. Like they're hiring. So right now I have a couple of personal projects I'm working on because I feel like the best thing for a resume to have is physical proof of what you're capable of. Yeah. And me and Sky packed a suitcase here and flew here. So we have really none of our stuff. Most of my stuff's in storage unit, including which I should have thought of this ahead of time. I have my final collection I made from school in my storage unit.
Cool.
So I want to get it shipped up here so I can get a photo shoot with it and kind of get that on my portfolio, because that's one thing I'm kind of missing. But my parents my dad drives a truck. He's a truck driver, and my mom is with him. So they live on the truck. So they're not there to ship me anything. So like they just shipped me stuff because they stopped by the other day at the storage unit. But I got my sewing machine finally after not having it for 3 months.
Oh,
So like that was driving me nuts, because I was like,
imagine.
I don't have any of my work and I don't have any money to buy anything new while I'm
Yeah.
here. So like I'm like itching. So I had a lot of planning in those 3 months, like notes and just designs. I have like so many designs just from these last 3 months because I have nothing else to do. And so hopefully when I get those more and more my stuff here, like I can work on more stuff. But I've been working on some more stuff since I got my sewing machine. I'm just kind of building my portfolio as much as I can right now, because there's so much competition in New York.
Yeah.
You really got to stand above the crowd. And up to now, all the stuff I made was stuff and products through school, because I didn't really have a lot of time working full time and going to school full time.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's why I had to leave Louis Vuitton, because they wanted towards the end there, my schedule changed for school my last year, and they weren't able to kind of work with my schedule, so we had to part ways there, which kind of hurt.
Okay.
Struggled with that one, because I'm like, dang, this is like an opportunity, but I don't have a choice. But yeah, so right now I'm just working on some personal projects while I kind of build my portfolio up. Yeah, and try to build my social media up, because that's one thing I've really not been good at, is social media.
Yeah.
And because I'm like a person that I don't like showing things. I like keeping things to myself.
Yeah.
I'm introverted in that way, I guess. And I'm also a mad perfectionist. So if it's not up to the standards I expect it to be, I'm not going to post it.
Okay.
Which I'm struggling to do, to change that and like kind of know that perfection is not real, and you just the art form is the product that comes out to be.
That's
So I need to
right.
just put it out and be confident. So I'm learning a lot of social media stuff right now as well, because when I officially do kind of drop things, I want to be able to have that audience.
Nice.
Yeah.
And another thing, just being in New York, everyone is anticipating,
Yeah.
your content to be all New York
Yes.
fabulous and,
Yes.
and just
Yes.
extravagant.
Yes.
So I can understand the pressure that comes with
It
that.
is. It definitely is. Yeah. It definitely
Yeah.
is. It's exciting because it's like it gives you a platform. Because like in Dallas, like I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna post in Dallas. Like, there's nothing, because I grew up there. There's nothing special to me. But in New York, there's so many things. It's like overwhelming to like. Okay, now I went from like struggling to even figure out what to post. Now it's like there's so much things I can post.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to post. So, but social media is definitely a learning curve for me that I'm trying to get a hang of.
Master.
Yeah, definitely.
And I mean, as a fashion extraordinaire, you need to.
I need to, yeah, and like I said earlier, like I don't have a team around
Yeah.
me. It definitely helps to have a team, but I'm so new out here. I'm still trying to meet people and grow my community, because a goal of mine is I really want to kind of have a creative. I mean, like I'm technically already part of a creative community, but I'm the only designer, like fashion designer in it. So I want to create a kind of like a haven for up and coming fashion designers, almost become like a group to like work together, build
Yeah.
together, brand together, spitball ideas together. Because I have that small group in Dallas, but I'm the only one that's out in New York right now. So that's kind of
Yeah.
tough. Feel a little
And
alone
the
on
thing
that
is,
end.
everyone is feeling that way.
Yeah,
So I'm like,
yeah.
at what point do we all just come together
Exactly.
and just make it collectively, just push each other and grow together?
It's tough.
Because everyone's in their corner and they're just like,
I think I think it's just fear. It's fear. People are scared they're going to be judged. People are scared they're not good enough.
Yeah.
And I have those feelings all the time. It's normal. It's human nature. But when you get out and do the things that you're scared of, and you meet the people that you're scared to meet, that's when the magic happens. That's when you build these relationships and you figure things out, because fear is just stopping you. And that's something I'm still trying to figure out, like where to meet people in the fashion community, where to go. And like you said, with Fashion Week coming up, I'm
Yeah.
trying to get a part of that and try to meet people through there. And even though I've only been here 4 months, it's flying by.
Yeah.
But it's part of the process.
And so, with regards to your brand and what you're wanting to then establish in the city, do you have a brand aesthetic? Do you have how do you go about describing the work that you either have done or are looking forward to doing?
So that's a key thing in finding success in fashion. It's tough because people have very altering opinions on this topic. Some people are very strict on you need to have a niche market. You need to have a certain aesthetic to build your brand upon. You need to have a target audience, which I totally get that. But at the same point, it's like, I feel like it's almost limiting because a lot of the work I've done and a lot of the designs I've come up with, they're totally based on just what I'm inspired by at the moment. And I find inspiration in a lot of different things. Like I've been inspired by movies lately and film and totally different aspects. Like lately I've been designing stuff inspired from X-Files, the old TV show. So it's like FBI kind of secret agent, just like theme stuff, and then medieval stuff. Cause like I do women's wear specifically. I do dabble in menswear, but I feel like my specialty and like what I really thrive in is women's wear. That's for sure. I know I'm locked in on, and an avant-garde. So very kind of not your average daily wear, very kind of out there stuff. Because at the end of the day, I look at fashion as art, and it's the best form to me of self-expression. So with women's wear, there's just so much more kind of opportunities, with design. With men, it's a little more limited, but I mean, that depends on who you ask. To me, I just am drawn more to designing women's wear. Yeah.
And I've seen some of his designs, y'all.
Oh, I did show you some. Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
I was just like, we need this fashion.
I know.
We need this fashion.
I need to get it out there because I've always been scared of not necessarily judgment or fear of like people not liking it. It's almost like a I've always kind of been, what's the word I'm looking for? Not believing myself, but like underestimating myself, to where I'm like, am I worthy of this? Am I worthy to be a part of this fashion community? Because all of my life growing up, I was in sports and I was part of a team. And I've learned early on in fashion, until you kind of get to that point, you're alone. And that's something I'm not used to. And I'm still figuring out, but that's definitely a hard aspect of it. Having that team around you to kind of like inspire you and motivate you to kind of get on the same page. But yeah, I'm getting there.
And to pick you up in times when, to take certain responsibilities of the game.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Where you don't have to. But I think it's definitely, it's part of the experience. It's part of the journey.
It is.
I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what the fashion comes out. So we've established that it's going to be women's wear.
Women's wear, yes.
With a variety of different styles, you'd say?
Yeah, because I'd say I'm trying to find a niche.
Okay.
But I've dabbled in so many different things, so many different styles and designs. I feel like early on, especially out of college, because like in college you have a very, you kind of told themes to build off of. So like I had creative freedom, but not really to the extent of like the freedom I was looking for. And I didn't have the access to the tools really fully I needed.
Yeah.
Just because the price and the expense of some things. So just out of college, I feel like right now I'm really experimenting on what works best for me in like a brand. What aesthetic fits me the most. Because like I do kind of get all over the place and have a habit of it. So I am trying to narrow it down. Because at the end of the day, you do need to have a certain target market. And honestly, I just like making cool stuff. I just like making stuff I think is fascinating. And I feel like in grand retrospect, that's a good idea. But when it comes to like an actual selling point and like a marketing point and like actually trying to sell yourself as a brand and the legitimacy of your brand, you kind of do have to niche it down. So that's something. Once I get that figured out, then I'll be able to kind of go more hit and run. But that's definitely kind of the stage I'm in right now, is really trying to discover who I am as a designer. And kind of like find that missing piece in the market that I can like take and run
Go
with
with it.
Yeah.
And the name of the brand is it Nate Pennington, or you're
No,
still
it's
deciding on
not.
that?
I've been back and forth on my name. As of right now, it's just Nate Pennington. It's just Nathaniel Pennington because a lot of designers do just make it their name.
Yeah.
But I want to branch off from that. I want to kind of keep it. I feel like that's a little. I don't know if people are gonna judge me for this. I think it's a little lame. Like what's the word I'm looking for? A little cheap. I don't know. I feel like it's a little like you're just taking a shortcut. It's like it's just gonna be my name,
Yeah.
Because I want to build. I love storytelling. I want to build a story. Like I want to build a world behind my brand, and that's why I'm so fascinated with movies and like certain authors and directors, because that is what I truly love, is storytelling and building worlds around stories and objects. So like being able to build a whole world around a brand and around my clothing is like my main goal. Because it's just like an author or director, you're telling a story with your pieces, and that's really what I want to kind of tell the world, is like my own story.
Okay, so we don't have a name yet.
Not fully yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now it's just still Nate.
Yeah, it's just Nate for now. Yeah. Yeah.
We'll take that.
Yeah, because like that's one thing, like you want to get right, and then go. I don't know. That's something I'm still kind of dabbling with, because I have options, but then you go to like trademarking, and you got to make sure it's not taken somewhere else. There's a whole legal thing with that. So, but I have a couple ideas that I'm working with right now. Yeah.
Oh, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. And I'm hoping that whoever's watching this and is in their phase of navigating things, they can know that it's okay.
It is
to be
100%.
figuring things out.
100%.
It's okay to be not in a perfect position and
yes,
just move. Like those things are part of the journey.
It
and
is
it's important
100%.
for us to even be having this conversation
Yes,
to say, hey,
yes.
I'm a designer, but I'm not there right now. I don't have
Figuring
a
it out,
name. I'm still figuring it out.
Because I mean, nowadays everything is so in your face and just hurry. Like everybody compares himself with other people. I mean, I even do it, It's hard not to when it's in your face all the time. Social media and TV, and you see people that just hit it big once early on, and you're like, why? Like, what am I not doing that they're doing?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's the path that they're meant to have, but in that journey of like going through struggle, going through these phases of self-doubt, is when I've learned the most about myself. And as hard as that is to grasp in the moment, every time I have these hard times, these hardships, I look back and I'm thankful for them because they make me who I am, and they give me a story to tell. Because sometimes these people that hit it quick and hit it big early on, they don't have as deep of a story to tell. Yeah. And they reach a crowd, but not into that level. Like, I really want to inspire people. I really want to tell people, like, everyone goes at their own pace. It's not a race. You're in a race with yourself. You go at your own pace. Yeah. There's no winner, there's no loser. There's no point in rushing if you aren't ready. And it's okay not to be ready. It takes time to build these things and build communities and build your brand, build your self-identity even. It's very hard. It's the hardest part of it, honestly. Yeah. Making the clothes is not the hard part. Yeah. It's getting to that point too. It's a self-battle that everybody struggles with. I just want everybody to know that, like, God has a plan, and you just got to stay in tune with that, take it step by step, and eventually when it's time, it'll come together.
Yeah. And good things take time.
They do. Good things do take time. That is very true.
So what do you think the version of you that was just out of high school, when you were battling and you're staying with your friend and you are at, one would say, a rock bottom stage of your life?
Rock bottom, 100%.
What would you say that version of you would say to the version of you today when they look at that?
I think I'd be like, you're in New York? That's crazy. Like, I never, like, especially that time, I never would have thought I'd be here. Yeah. And just being here, even with all the question marks ahead of me, like, I'm so thankful. I'm so blessed. I think I'd be proud of myself and shocked, honestly, because at that point I was like, I don't know what's going on. I mean, I've always really battled with depression, very serious depression. I struggled. I mean, I still do, on and off. I mean, I think that's normal. It's a very hard topic, and it's hard to talk about. but it's normal. And people go through it, and especially when you're at rock bottom like that, I think I learned the most, like I said a minute ago, like I learned the most about myself when I was at rock bottom.
Yeah.
And now every time like I have self-doubt or I have those second thoughts, like I revert back to that time because I'm like, I am who I am today because of that time.
Yeah.
And it happened for a reason.
And I'm sure that Nate would be grateful that you just kept going.
100%.
You know, and
Yeah, 100%.
You didn't give up.
Definitely. And there's still a long journey ahead. And I'm going to keep saying that to myself in my head. Just do not get up. Every time you're beaten down, get back up because there's always more to life. There's always more ahead, you know.
Yeah. I love it. From one 25-year-old to another.
Yeah, oh, you're 25 too? I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yes. We're relating perfectly.
You know,
Love
we're just in the space. And I think there's a lot of us out there. I was telling a friend of mine over the phone, I was like, there's a lot of us out there between the ages, say maybe 23 to maybe early 30s. We are just in this space because there's a bombarding of social media. And we are in this space where we have to figure life out, but we don't necessarily have the tools to do that because the people before us didn't have social media embarked in this journey of their lives. So now we are like figuring it out and making sure that as we're figuring it out, we're taking care of ourselves, we're taking care of our mental health, we're taking care of, you know, our finances, our relationships, our this and that.
It's a lot to keep up with.
And it's like, oh my God.
You're straight. My blood pressure's going up this year, and you talk about it. My gosh, it is. It's just like there's so much. I feel like I don't know if this is true, but you know, just us growing up in this area, it just seems like there's so much to just juggle for our people our age. It's just like so much question marks, you know, and there's just like the way the world is, it's just there's so much negativity and like just with the job markets back and forth and things are expensive. It's hard to survive, you know, but that's why we need to revolt around each other and support each other.
And even have these conversations and just be like, yo, it's okay.
Yes.
It's cool.
Yes,
you know, we're figuring it out. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think this time just makes us believe there's something wrong with trying and working hard and pushing and just getting and going. Because the people that we admire, that we look up to, those people will be like, oh, it's just like 12 years of me just like working on this brand.
Yeah, no, exactly.
You know what I mean? And
it's
you're like,
always longer than you think it is. Yes, it is.
So I'm looking forward to seeing your journey unfold.
Thank you. Thank you. They say, well, I don't remember the exact saying. It's it takes 10 years to become an overnight success.
Overnight success.
And it can be more true. You know,
Yeah.
I'm fresh out of college. I've been sewing for about 5 years now. I still got a long way to go.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm excited for the journey, though. I'm excited for what to come.
And y'all be on the lookout, okay?
Yes.
I told you, fashion extraordinaire.
Extraordinaire. Exactly. Definitely.
I'm giving you that tagline.
Well, thank you. You're boosting my confidence already. Like I'm ready to go home and get to work. Honestly, I'm looking forward to it.
I love it. I love it. No, thank you so much for coming on. I don't know if there's anything else particular because I feel like at this point I'm gonna keep inviting you on the show to keep coming back.
Please do.
If there's anything right now that you want to make sure to share with the audience at home and you know, put on the table and ensure that you say before we wrap it up, what would that be?
Well, I just want to say thank you to all my supporting, you know, people back at home, back in Texas, and I have some friends out in California too. I'm very thankful for all my friends, my family. I've got a lot of prayers behind me, and I feel it every day. Just knowing that I have that much support at home is like, it just helps me keep going, you know. And it just means a lot to me that none of my friends and family, my friends, you know, friends can be like, sometimes they don't really believe in you. Or my friends have been vocally supportive all the time. When I reach out and tell them I'm having a hard time, they got my back, they support me, and I'm just beyond thankful for y'all and everything y'all have done for me. Sky, love you. I'll see you later. I'm so thankful for you and everything you've done for my life. I'm so excited for what's next for us. And I'm so excited to see what's next for me in general.
ladies and gents. So when you do your first fashion show, I wanna announce you.
No,
on
yeah, I would
stage.
love to. I'd love to.
I want to make sure to be there and
Definitely.
and just say the words, ladies and gentlemen, Nate
Hey,
Pennington.
you'd call it the extraordinaire. Yeah, you called it.
You know, I definitely would like to be part of that journey. So thank you so much for
Yes,
coming
thank
and
you.
spending the afternoon with me.
And thank you for inviting me. It was an honor, and I'm just blessed that I met you. You're an amazing light, and what you do is amazing.
Thank you.
And I couldn't be more grateful for you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, man. Ladies and gents, I hope that you at home enjoyed that. I hope that you learned from just this conversation. Nate and I were just technically catching up, really.
Honestly, yeah, I was so nervous. Believe it or not, I was like, I mean, I told you I was nervous to come in here.
Yeah.
It's funny that I'm even telling you this, but I almost like didn't schedule a meeting for us because I was so like, I was like, I'm new here. Like, I don't know what I'm even going to talk about. I feel like I'm just going to freeze and just everything's going to go blank, which I'm sure I forgot some things. But my mom and dad, they're like, you need to do it. Like, God is putting an opportunity in front of you. Do it. Like, you will regret it. So I'm like, all right, they're like, just do this one thing for me and schedule a time to meet with her. I was like, all right, I'll do it. And I couldn't be more thankful because this was amazing. It was just a nice, easy conversation. And I'd love to have one again.
Of course. We love you, Mom and Dad.
Yes. Brian and Tamara, you guys are awesome.
But that's all we have in store for you on the show today. I hope that you really enjoyed that and that you learned a thing or two, because I am definitely inspired by Nate's journey and inspired to see where he goes next. So make sure to keep following his journey on social media. Are you on the socials? You did say.
Yes. So I'm working on it. Like I said, I don't have a lot on there, but I'm that's my step I'm in right now, is really trying to grow and post my stuff on there. So you can follow me on Instagram. I don't even remember my tag. Hold on. That's how bad it is.
I love that.
Let's see. I'm more focused on the real life stuff, you know? Yeah, so Nate Pennington 8 on Instagram. That's me. Go give me a follow, and hopefully you like my work.
And get one of those garments you're going to be making for us in the city.
Yeah, right. That's the goal.
Yeah. I love it. All right, guys. Of course, follow Nate and make sure that you follow the show at The Vuyo Show across all social media platforms. Like, share, subscribe, do the things that are meant to be done. And join us again on the next episode of The Vuyo Show. I am your favorite global darling, Vuyo Chamota. For myself and the fashion extraordinaire, Nate Pennington, ladies and gents, it is goodbye and have a fantastic one. See you on the next episode.
See you later.